All right, and we are live. Welcome to the Stage of Greatness. I am Danielle Francine, and I have with me my friend Paul Altero. Welcome. He is the co-founder of Bubakoo's Burritos. For those of you that don't know what that is, I'm sure one is coming to a town near you very soon. He
Ideally,
just
right?
yeah, he just opened his 100th location. So I'm so excited to have you on here. Thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, so let's talk. Let's talk about all the stuff and things.
Thanks, Danielle. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on your podcast.
Thank you, my pleasure. So yeah, I mean, I have enjoyed watching your journey for years. And, before we started recording, Paul had said 15 years. I'm like, 15 years, man. I mean, it to me, it seems like a whirlwind. So I'm curious to, start to hear your thoughts on what it's been like and how you got started. But I mean, your success is just, it's amazing to see. And yeah, I know it inspires so many people, and I can't wait to really like get in there and get into your mind and your world and hear about that.
That's really kind and that's very flattering, and I really appreciate that. It's been a 15-year overnight success.
I love it. So
Yeah.
how did you get started? How did this all come about?
Wow. Well, that's a big one. It's like opening up and unzipping the massive suitcase and starting to unpack it. Honestly, I think I've always been an ambitious guy since I was a kid, even a teenager. Always like working, always like hustling. Um, didn't really fall into the burrito thing until I visited my cousin in Washington, D.C. when I was in college and ran into a concept called Brothers Burritos, which was like a modern day Chipotle now, Qdoba, Bubakoo's burritos, but it was a fast casual burrito chain where you made your own burrito and you're out the door. But very simplified. It was just a couple of, protein choices. And I just thought it was the greatest thing because we had nothing like that. Obviously, we grew up on the same street. So, we didn't have any burrito joints around us except for maybe Taco Bell.
Right.
This was like a level up. This was a step up, and I really liked that. So it was always on my mind, but I didn't grow up with, to be quite honest, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. My parents didn't have a lot of money. I was raised by a single mom. I was actually born and raised in Newark, New Jersey before I moved to Brick.
Hmm.
So Newark, born and raised. And to be quite honest with you, went to Brick. My mom had met my stepdad. Things got financially a little bit better until he passed away when I was around 19,
Hmm.
20 years old. It was 20 years old, sorry.
Hmm.
And we had fallen back on hard times. So kind of got through the college thing, OCC, found my way into University of Delaware again, which is where when I was attending Delaware, visited my cousin in DC, fell upon the burrito thing, and was kind of floundering. Like, what do I do? What do I do with my life?
Yeah.
And like everybody else, you just interview when you get out of college and you get a job. So I was always in for food service since I was about 9 years old, working in the restaurant business,
Hmm.
and just worked for companies like Pizzeria Uno out of school. Then I went to work for a concept called, well, it was a mom and pop in town. Can't even remember the name of it off the top of my head. And then I went to work for Nordstrom in their retail clothing store, Nordstrom and Freehold,
Yeah.
and I worked in their restaurant division. So I ran their cafe and their espresso bar.
Okay.
And then eventually got picked up by a company called Johnny Rockets.
Hmm.
So Johnny Rockets, where they sing and dance and twirl the straws, at least they used to. And it was a great company for me. I worked there 10 years. I was promoted I'd say about 4 or 5 times within that company,
Hmm.
and that really gave me a lot of confidence to go out and do my own thing after the 10 years I was with the Johnny Rockets brand. But to make a long story long, that was really on my mind was I think it would be great to introduce like this really cool burrito concept, to suburbia.
Mhm.
And it's like midway through my Johnny Rockets years, I had figured out that Chipotle was born and bred, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're doing exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that kind of lit a fire under me, and that ignited some passion for me to start thinking about doing something, sooner than later.
Mm. Awesome. So you had that on your mind and really in your heart for years and years and years
Years.
before you
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
like acted on it.
That's right. Yeah, it was
Okay.
probably around 94 when I was introduced to that brand. And like you said, I grabbed hold of it, and I didn't execute or start the business until 2008. So,
Wow.
14 years is a long time to wait, for something you're
Absolutely.
really excited about. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So when you had that fire lit under your ass when you started seeing the Chipotle's pop up,
yeah.
what did you encounter within yourself in moving forward? Did you have to work through like self-doubt, limiting beliefs that you had, those internal struggles? Did you experience
Mhm.
that?
Yeah. Well, we obviously chatted briefly about that, but I'll elaborate. Really, I was at Delaware, and again, I always referred to myself as a kid who really didn't belong in Delaware. I didn't dress like a Delaware student. I didn't have the money that a lot of the parents had that sent their kids there. I had put myself through school because, again, my father had passed, um, and the only way I was going to get through college was paying for it myself.
Mhm.
So I was attending class and just again floundering, just like a C student, not very academic, partying a lot, having a good time with the guys. Keith, who was down the block, one of my best friends, especially at the time. He went there, and again, I got accepted into their program. Don't ask me how, especially
Mhm.
with the grades that I had. But at the end of the day, they accepted me into their program. I got the financial aid. And again, I was having a good time, and things were going well. And I had really crossed paths with a professor. It was literally a godsend. I know it's going to sound really strange, but this teacher saw something in me, even though I was goofing around in class and never taking things too serious and surely not getting good grades. The guy saw something in me, started taking a lot of interest in me, would talk to me after class, wanted to get to know me, wanted to understand me. Um, and we became friends, me and the professor. And he's, to this day, I'm still friends with the guy. But he really wanted me, he was pushing me up to the plate to do something uh, in the program, which was going to be hospitality club president.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I didn't have an ounce of leadership in my bones to be president of the Glee Club, never mind this highly touted club in Delaware, which is the Hospitality Club. It sounds a little nerdy, but it was kind of a big deal if you're a part of the program.
Uh-huh.
He goes, Paulie, he called me Paulie. A lot of my friends call me Paulie. He said, Paulie, why don't you try out for Hospitality Club president? And I was just like, whoa, it was like, no way, there's no way I would do that. Not in 1,000 years. The thought of public speaking, the thought of leadership, the fact that I didn't think I fit in. I mean, the whole nine, it just wasn't going to be for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he would recurringly ask me over and over again, to apply for the position, you know? And I was just like, I don't know. And this is like weeks and weeks and weeks of him asking me to at least throw my hat in the ring and give it a shot. And I would sleep on it at night, and I'd be like, I don't think so, man. It's just I was afraid of it. It's just something I couldn't do.
Yeah.
And I don't know, after I don't know, I would say probably about a month of him talking to me and me giving him every reason why I can't do it. I decided to try it.
Mm.
So I went for I put my ballot in. I had to actually debate with somebody else in front of like a large group of people, and I remember sweating. I just remember sweating profusely and literally like wiping my forehead with my arm. And I got through the debate, and I don't know, at the end of it I was elected hospitality club president.
Nice.
It was very small, right? Very trivial, very small, but it was really the foothold into bigger things beyond that. And the
Mm.
words he kept asking me, and I apologize for not referencing them, but he used to always say to me, Paulie, why can't you? Paulie, why can't you? He would always use the words, why can't you? And I still to this day believe it's a very, very powerful set of words, is why can't you? Because we question ourselves a lot, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like, again, we were referencing the fact that you're in great shape, and uh, you've worked very hard at that, but it's a decision. And some people don't believe they can get into great shape. They just, I don't know if I have it in me. I don't know if I'm going to dedicate the energy. I don't know if, my body can hold up. I don't know, whatever. There's 100 reasons why people can make excuses for things, but I just made a decision that I was going to do it, and I committed to it, and I became president. I don't know if I was the best president, but I did my best. And that just really, honestly, that was like the genesis of pretty much every move I made going forward till now.
Mm.
Was that was the fact that I realized that I could do anything I put my mind to,
Mm.
honestly.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah. And so I have not heard anybody ask that question. Why can't you?
Why can't you?
Yeah. And so have you ever asked yourself that question and had reasons why you could not?
Honestly, I think since again, when I started working and I started getting promoted, and especially, we were chatting again before the call here. Um, I had gotten hired by a company called Johnny Rockets, which was a small emerging brand at the time in the 90s. And it was just a perfect platform for me. I came on board. It was the type of thing where they were growing quickly. There was just a lot of room for promotion. And I don't know, my confidence level just continued to build and build and build. And as I worked hard and got promoted, my confidence went up. As I worked hard and got promoted, my confidence went up. And before I knew it, I went from being a store manager to running the entire East Coast for the company,
Oh, wow.
and making great money. I was probably making with bonus $250,000 a year in my early 30s. And this is now, I'm dating myself, but this is mid probably 2005,
Okay. Yeah.
where the dollar went a little further,
Right. Right.
So, I don't know. Again, it was just one of those things where I just realized that as human beings, we're so hardwired. I had a dad who was a train conductor, a mom who was a secretary. And, when you grew up in that environment, and again, they did the best they could. I have nothing against my parents' lack of entrepreneurship, but we're a byproduct of the way we're raised and the environments we're raised in. If you had parents that were entrepreneurs, more than likely you'd probably be an entrepreneur.
Right.
So I think that jump, that leap from, again, from not being entrepreneurial to being an entrepreneur, it's it's a really it's a really big commitment, but understand that, if you really want to do it, you should do it.
Mhm. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really should. But I would preface it also by saying that make sure you have your ducks in a row, right? Make sure that you've got some good worldly experience working. Make sure that you have obviously money saved in the bank. Make sure that you're disciplined. You can't just go open a business, right? I mean,
Right.
there's a couple of steps you need to take before you kind of take the leap. But there's so many people that get blocked up that do get there. I think late 20s, 30s is a great time to open up a business for anybody, because I think, maturity is set in. Um, a lot of things I just spoke about, are in place.
Mhm.
And I think, by early to mid 30s is a great time to really launch a business.
Yeah.
But so many people, that's where they stop, right? They start to fight themselves, they start to overanalyze, they start to get what you call I think it's what paralysis through analysis.
Yep.
You see a lot of that, and I know so many talented people that have never really made that leap into their own business because of those issues. And that's a total mental thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's the easiest thing to do is just let fear keep you where you are,
of course.
right? Comfortable.
Agreed. Agreed.
So after you opened your first location, because I mean, so you have 100 now.
102 as of today in
Oh,
Miramar. So if you take a ride down to Miramar, you're not that far. We opened up 102 today, but yeah, uh,
amazing.
so far so good.
Okay,
I
awesome.
answered your question. So 100 stores.
Yeah, so 100 stores. So how
Yeah.
did it go from, okay, I have this idea, I'm gonna call it Bubakoo's Burritos. I have my store, and how did it become because it's a franchise, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, there's a lot of conversation that probably needs to be built in about my partner, because my partner was it is, it remains a huge part of it and has been a huge part of it. But it was always about great people. He was somebody that worked for me for the better part of the entire time I was at Johnny Rockets. But he was more of like an assistant for me. And then he kind of grew into his own man. And now he's a full-fledged, equal partner. So, and he's a great guy, and he's again, he works hard, and again, we wouldn't be where we are without him. His name is Bill Hart, by the way.
Okay.
In fact, I spent the entire last 2 days with him in Orlando, just meeting and just whatever, just powwowing about the business.
Nice.
But to answer your question, how do you go from one store to 100? I went into this, and I think he did too, for the most part. I didn't go into this to own one store. I never wanted to own one. I always wanted to own a franchise system. That was my thing. I wanted to own a complete franchise system. I had worked so many years at Johnny Rockets and worked with franchisees and admired them so much. Like, in fact, initially I wanted to be a franchisee. I didn't want to be, I never had visions of being a franchisor, but I wanted to be a franchisee. I thought they had spirit. I liked their lifestyle. They were exciting. They were fun to be around. They were always a good time, the franchisees. And I said, man, I want to be a franchisee when I get past this. And then after working with them for so long, and then really again realizing how ordinary they were and are, I said, you know what? I could do one better. I could be the franchisor. I can actually have a franchise system. Hence, Bubakoo's number one opened up, and I pretty much just said to my partner, Bill, man, like, we got to build this thing into something really big and make this a system. Um, because it was met with, I would say, some really strong favorability, the brand.
Mhm.
So store number one open, store number two open. That was Manasquan. Store number three, Brick. Hit a little bit of a wall in Brick. It was just a bad location. Lesson learned. Hit Tom's River. That did well. And then it just kind of spiraled. And I think we got up to about 8 or 9 stores before we decided, let's make this a franchise model. Let's really package it and let's sell it as a franchise model. And it took literally about 2 years to get our first franchise boarded and successful before we really started to get any type of momentum.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, what was that like for you when that was happening and when that completion of your first franchisee was open and successful? And now you have this success, like internally and also life.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you the truth, and you know, I never consider myself successful even till today. It's a true story. And I don't say that to be like quintessential or humble. I'm not overly humble, but I will tell you that I don't consider myself overly successful. I consider myself semi-successful. I'll agree to. I'll agree to that. But, success for me is getting to maybe a couple hundred more units, selling the business for the right price, and then doing things that I think that are far reaching and beneficial to others. For me is self-actualization. That's true success.
Mm,
So I struggle a little bit with the word success, honestly. I do.
okay. So,
But I want
go
to go
ahead.
back to your question though,
Sure, go ahead.
because you said so just so I understand, you said did you want to know more about how it spiraled into opening up more franchises, or what exactly was it?
So when that was your present time and that
Right.
first franchise opened and
Yeah.
it was successful and then it started to spiral into more, what was that like for you? Like emotionally, did your life change?
Well, it wasn't easy. It was very difficult. So even after the first one, it's not like everybody flocked in and said, I want to franchise your brand. In fact, it was extremely disappointing. We had one, and I think the second one came along 6 months later. It was like pulling teeth in the beginning because people don't really subscribe to something that's not tested and trusted. The
Mhm.
only thing that we had on our side was the fact that we had 8 or 9 restaurants that I had built previously and said, wow, these guys had enough stores to really have a sample of stores or a core of stores that showed that they were doing well. And
Mhm.
that was big. And I definitely would recommend that if anybody's in the franchise business, to not open up 1 or 2 stores and say, I'm going to franchise, but to open up a core of stores and say, this is my sample and this is how it's doing well. But again, it took probably about 2 or 3 years to really gain any real momentum. In fact, we probably started franchising about, I'm going to say about 7 years ago.
Mhm.
And true velocity came in the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
I mean, velocity, where we're growing at like 40% year over year, which is tremendous. We opened up, I think, close to 40 stores last year.
Wow.
So that was a lot. So, we have 100 stores, but consider that 40 of the 100 were opened in one year.
Mhm.
So, it's pretty hardcore right now. And I wouldn't say it's, um, out of control or not tamed, but you could see how it could quickly get there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So it sounds like, or what I'm kind of hearing in between the words, there
Yeah.
was a point where, during the, okay, now this is a franchise and it was moving slow and it was kind of like pulling teeth.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Do you ever get to a point where, you had thoughts of like, oh, this is hard. Like I
Oh, yeah.
on the towel, maybe this isn't for me. I should try something else.
I think you just said it. This is hard. I realized that I had the impression that being the franchisor, that this would be easy,
Mm.
right? Because you formed the concept, you train the franchise owners how to do it, they do it, and they pay you lots of money. But
That's what I would think.
that's what most people in the world would think, but it's really nothing like that. Because to train these people well is difficult. To make sure they come out of training really adjusted and knowing the brand is difficult.
Mhm.
Uh, all of the steps involved are difficult. Finding the site, approving the site, getting involved in construction, helping them get through construction, making sure that again that they're trained up, at least from a management standpoint, that you help them to get trained from an employee standpoint, making sure that the opening goes well and that they could sustain operating their location. Some of them are really busy, and you're kind of taking these people that have trained for 5 weeks, you're sticking them into a busy store. The trainers are there to help them, but then we back out and they get inhaled sometimes.
Mm,
And that's when the problems start, and it can get away from you really, really quickly, is what I've learned. And again, I'm just referencing like one franchisee. Just imagine again having 50, you know, and let's just say the rate of their level of competency is average to so. Now you're constantly trying to keep them up to speed. You're supporting them constantly. It's a lot of support. It's a lot of answering the phone. It's a lot of visitations. In
mm,
some cases, it's sending out people to actually continue to help them and train them.
yeah,
But we're also limited on resources, right? We're opening up so many stores. We only have so many people.
right.
So it's a wild ride, is all I can tell you. It's really a lot more difficult than it looks. Everybody just thinks it's glitz and glamour, and you're making lots of money and everything's great. When in reality, it's not always the case. It's constant reinvestment. We're always hiring new corporate people to be able to support the system, to support the processes, to support the franchise owners. So it's always like, you know, a step back to get two steps forward. It feels like that's constantly the case.
Yeah.
But it's what I would call good business.
Mm,
Mhm.
okay. So two steps forward, or was it no, two steps back to get
It's
one
a
step
step back
forward?
to get two steps forward. Yeah.
Okay. So that right there has to require a strong mindset,
Yes.
right? So, I mean, just really everything that you've done since you even opened your first store until now, the growth that you've experienced, everything that is required of you, hiring these new people, training the corporate people to help the franchisees. What is if you could like give us a description of your daily mindset, or are there things that you do to like prime yourself for what you're dealing with, what you're going through when you take those steps back and those steps forward?
Sure. Well, I mean, for me personally, it's strategy. It's always strategy, so you're always thinking. I spend countless hours thinking. There's a lot of action in there because obviously I think you see I travel a lot. I try to visit stores. I try to show face. I think all those things are really important, especially being a founder. But I spend a tremendous amount of time thinking and exhausting myself on how to do things better, how to support better. And that's critical.
Mm-hmm.
Our main mission, it's not even, some people almost have the impression that they work for us. It's really not the case. We work for them.
Right.
They pay us in return, but it's like a giant entity that's working for the system,
Mm-hmm.
and again, it's difficult because there's so many holes. There's so many buckets that we need to tend to.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not facilities, it's training. If it's not training, it's an HR issue. It's not an HR issue. It's a guest complaint issue, or it's one of so many different things. It's kind of it is. I'd have to say straight up, at times it's pretty exhausting. It
Mhm.
is. And you just have to just wake up every morning, look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm gonna have a great day today. I'm gonna support the heck out of my franchise community. I'm gonna support my team, and we're gonna do it again today. But it's like 7 days a week. There's no days off.
Yeah.
When I'm on vacation, we're working. It's
Oh,
there's no off button, especially at 100 plus stores, there's no off button. There's never an off button, you know.
Yeah.
So
Do you ever have moments where you question yourself or what you're doing? Like, do I still want to do this?
well, again, there's a commitment there, right? So when the franchise partners committed to me or to my company, just keep in mind that, you know, uh, I committed to them, right? So, I always keep that in mind that, there's always a commitment in return. So I feel really strongly about that. One thing I am is I'm loyal and I'm committed. So I'm committed to the brand. And if anybody knows anything, about relationships or I'll use marriage as an example. Sometimes it's a commitment. Sometimes, it's not great, but you have to find a way to make it work. And it almost feels like, with franchise partners, it's a little bit like a marriage. You're committed to each other. You have to see it through. There's reasons why you have to see it through. Um, the fruit of the business are like your children, and you do whatever it takes to keep it going. And that's kind of almost my mentality, with my franchisee. So for now, yeah, it has its frustrations. Yeah, there's times I'm like, man, I'd love to be done with this. I'm not gonna lie. If you're asking me to be honest with you, I'll be honest with you. But at the end of the day, I'm still enjoying it. I still like it. I still want to see it through. I have goals. I have certain specific goals outlined for myself, and I'm not going to relent until I hit those goals.
Yeah. Awesome. And so in our conversation before we started recording, we talked about, what's on the horizon for you. And so before you answer that question, my perception of Bubakoo's, how it has grown, is basically a vehicle for you for what is on the horizon, for your end goal, your end game.
Well, I mean, for me, it's getting it to a certain valuation, honestly, on what I feel like I need or my family needs to walk away. That's the selfish answer. But also to make sure that again that this company's passed to somebody or a group that's going to take great care of the brand,
Mhm.
continue to support the franchise community,
Mhm.
somebody that again a brand that I can see myself in 15 years walking through doors and eating there with my kids or maybe their kids,
Mhm.
and something that's going to be sustainable. I'd surely hate to see this thing get bought up by just anybody and dissolve or
Yeah.
just fail, because it goes back to what I said earlier. It's about commitment too, right? We have commitments to franchise partners that are relying on this thing doing well,
Right.
and I just can't, it's not in me as a person to see this not go all the way. Yeah, very
Yeah.
important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So when that time does come and you do find the right person or the right group to buy it from you, do you have things that you would
Mm.
like to do? Or are you just gonna lay back in the shade and relax?
No, I'm definitely not one to relax. I'm not a relaxing type, but it would be nice to take a little time off at some point.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
just a little time,
just a little bit. Yeah,
like a
right.
week.
Exactly. Pretty much. That's probably what would happen. Right? Um, honestly, like I was saying a little bit when we were discussing, I just there's other things I'd like to do, that are a little bit more pay it forward or philanthropic. I'd love to teach. Right now, I'm working on a graduate degree at Syracuse University. I'm pretty close to graduating. In fact, I'm about a class away. But I'd like to get the credentials to be able to teach, and basically, inject my knowledge and my experiences to younger people that again might have been like myself in college who were suffering with doubt or maybe some low self-esteem, and see if I can ignite them a little bit. That would be really exciting for me.
Hmm.
So, you know, it's not, it's not to say money isn't nice, but it's certainly not everything. It's not everything.
Right. Right. Money doesn't give you that feeling of what you
No,
want to do, right? Helping those people that were like you and seeing their success.
agreed.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like when you give somebody something, when you help somebody, you'll always remember that and they always remember that. You know what I mean? And that's a really cool thing. So yeah, I think doing more public speaking, I think more teaching, um, just more motivating. I think again would be something that really would fulfill me at this point in my life. At
Hmm.
the old age of 50 years old. Um, I think it's I don't know, it's a good time to give back. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's been
Absolutely.
all it's been all me, and it's funny because you start to amass things, and you have a nice house and you have a nice car, nice cars and things, but you ultimately learn that those things definitely will never bring you true happiness. So give me a young life to inspire and change his or her life, and to me that's worth 10 times what any car or thing will give you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So for those young people that are listening to this show, right, and thinking like, "Oh my God, Paul, wow, like that's amazing." And so maybe if he did it, I could do it.
Of course, why
What
can't you?
there's the question, why can't you? And I'm also going to start asking myself that question too.
Sure.
So what would you like, do you have a message that you would want to give to them, a blanket statement, a story? Like what's your best motivation or inspiration for those people?
Well, I think it's it's a lot of what we just talked about, but I think at the end of the day, it's really asking yourself, why can't you do certain things? If you're hitting a roadblock and you're saying that you can't do it, I think you need to really revisit that and ask yourself why you can't. And then if unless again you for certain can convince yourself that you can't do it, which I don't know, I would still doubt. Um, then don't do it. But otherwise, think of more reasons why you should do it. And I think that'll be very powerful for you. And
Mhm.
really, it's very liberating. One thing I've also learned too after opening up the first store, it's like, when you buy a house or, even when you buy a house for the first time, it's a very nerve-wracking process, right? It's very scary. You're signing this note for 30 years, you're going to pay this loan back, and it's a big deal. And I kind of it's kind of the same except on steroids when you open up a business, because there's also obviously in some cases leases attached to it, and there's a lot of financing attached to it. But what I've learned too is once you do it the first time, it gets easier.
Mm.
So when you buy your house for the first time, you're scared when you're signing the papers. Second time, you're a little less scared. So you're always a little nervous, but it's always a cool time. And I just find that it's the same with opening up a business. You open up your first business and you do well, you know what? It's going to give you the motivation to open up the second business and the third business and the fourth business. And I don't think everybody has to achieve 100 restaurants or 200 restaurants or 35,000 restaurants to be successful in their own mind. I think that's all up to the individual.
Mhm.
If opening up a restaurant that you've always wanted to open is something exciting for you, and that's enough for you, I think that's wonderful. I think
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Love that. So really just feel the fear and do it anyway.
that's right.
Take the
If
first
it's
step.
uncomfortable, if it's uncomfortable, do it. You
Hmm.
know, I've come to learn a lot in my life as I've gotten older that things that are uncomfortable are generally great for you. You know,
Yes.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, when we stay comfortable, we stay basically exactly where we are.
Exactly,
No growth.
idle.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, boring.
Completely
Boring.
boring.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great advice. Great advice. I love that. And
Yeah,
uh, easy, I mean, so in everything really that we've spoke about, all of the things that you have done really comes down to your mindset, your commitment, right?
that's
And
right.
consistently moving forward. And how can I do this better? So here, right? Focus and go.
Agreed.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I love it.
Well, I mean, and I almost wish you would have you could jump in on the conversation because you
Okay.
know as well as I do, right? I mean, you don't become as again as fit as you are without all the things we just talked about.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I think really, and the reason why I love to have all different people on the show, different businesses, different levels of success is because really it is all the same. If you have success in one area of your life, you can have success in every area.
that's
Many of
right.
us just don't connect those dots. And it's like, well, I have a phenomenal body. Yes, because I'm committed to doing the things to make sure that that happens. If I decided, hey, I also want to open a restaurant franchise, there's probably like some learning that I need to do because I'm not familiar
Of
with it.
course, of course.
And if I committed to that, like I commit to my body, my fitness, I know that I can do it. Right.
Agreed.
So it's like,
Agreed.
yes, we have success in one area in a large way. Just take that mindset, take that commitment, and apply it to where you want to see those results. Yeah.
100%.
Hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I love that you want to teach and that you're in school. Like you have all of this going on. You're like, oh yeah, and I have one class left to graduate.
Yeah. That's been rough. I'd be a liar to say that the graduate school, A, at at my business level, B, with 9 and 10-year-old girls and a marriage, and C, you know, just even at my age, it's been and the travel schedule, it's rough. It's
Yeah.
really rough. But again, it became a commitment, and really it was foresight. I said, you know what? If I end up selling my company in the next 3 to 5 years, I want to have this graduate degree out of my hair. I want to have the credentials. I want the pedigree. So when I do bow out at whatever time, it could be next year if the opportunity is right and the price is right. And I just want to be poised to be able to go right into teaching without having to then take the time and then work on the degree, then teach. I want to almost be able to come out of the chute and teach.
Go
You
right
know?
into it.
Yeah,
Take the week
exactly.
off and then start working
Take a week off and then
again.
teach.
You
Exactly.
deserve that week off.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So I always ask some fun questions at the end of the show.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
So, Mr. Paul, what
Yeah,
would you say is your superpower?
the super. Oh, well, I think I can answer that. I think I'm pretty good at reading people. I think that's and that comes down to so many different like parts of life, right? Is understanding that I knew that this partner was the right partner to go with. Understanding that, a lot of the key players that work for me now are the right people in position to really grow the business. So, I think whether it's business or personal life, be it my wife, uh, I just think I've always had a great eye for um, understanding people and really honing in on what was best for me,
Hmm.
what people were best for me. So a good read on people would probably be my superpower.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah.
cool. And what is your definition of a good life?
That's a great question. So the first thing I'll preface it by saying it surely doesn't mean you need to have a lot of money to have a good life. Because I've seen both sides of it coming from, I wouldn't say poverty, but growing up a low income kid to now having reasonable money. I've learned that I think some of my happiest times were when I didn't have as much money.
Mm,
So to answer the question more specifically, I think health, I think work life balance,
mm.
all the things I'm not sure I have right now. Um, but great kids and a great family, great wife, great relationships, um, and again, doing things that really fulfill you, like we talked about earlier. Things that I want to do, like inspire the youth. Uh, to me, I think that all culminates to a good life. And I think right now I have some of that in my life, thank God, but I'm working towards more of a good life, if that
Yeah,
makes any sense.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So really all the things that compose a good life for you are the things that money cannot buy.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
That's
right.
beautiful. I love that.
It's not to say money isn't important. I don't want to ever mince words here.
I'm not
Money
saying
is,
that either.
yeah, definitely it's important. It's important to be able to pay your bills. But when is enough enough? I think that's also a big question, is when is enough enough? And for me, it's enough to retire comfortably, be able to pay for my girls' weddings, go on vacations, have money in the bank if they need it or we need it. And obviously at some point leaving some money for them, so they don't have to struggle their entire lives. But I mean, I've seen, I know some entrepreneurs that it just seems like it's never enough, where they're into the hundreds of millions and even into the to want to be a billionaire. And I don't really understand that too well. I think that just becomes obsession.
Hmm. Yeah. And I can also relate to that, whether it's money or like a level of fitness or
Yeah,
whatever it is. It's like, okay, you set goals and then you achieve that and you're like, okay, great, what's next? It's
yeah.
almost like an addiction.
An addiction. I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
But I think I'm free of that addiction because I was like that for a long time with the businesses. And then again, I'm starting to get to that point where, again, I'm not really slowing down because it's its own animal. We're in the process of opening, gosh, I'm going to say probably an additional 200 restaurants in the next, 3 years, maybe 4 years, maybe five, whatever it takes. But and it's fun and it is a little addictive, but I'm to the point now where I'm starting to slow myself down and say, okay, uh, you know, quality over quantity. That's almost my mantra right now with the team is, I think the stores need to run a little bit better. So my goal right now is all about, again, the developing and the growing of the stores, but also let's get back to what we do. We're
Mhm.
always looking forward, but let's maintain what we have.
Mhm.
So there's been a big press recently, right now, on getting back into our stores and making sure that they're really running properly. So, but to get back to the quantity and what's enough, and I just think that I don't know. I'm just getting to that point in age where I think I know when enough is enough, and I don't think I'm terribly far from it.
That's a good place to be.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's good when you can see the light at the end of the tunnel because
Yep.
50 years ago there was it was a very tiny light.
Yep. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah,
Light at the
yeah,
end of the tunnel.
yeah.
Yes, that's exciting. And to know that what's next for you is even, well, not even more exciting, but yeah, even more exciting
Different,
because it's a
different,
different, yeah, a
different,
different
different.
level or different um piece of your fulfillment of your good life,
Exactly.
right? Satisfying that desire.
Exactly.
Cool.
Mm-mm.
Good stuff. All right, awesome. Well, I
You're not
guess
gonna
we
you're not gonna zing me with any other wild questions.
Nope. Those are my two fancy questions for you.
Yeah, that's easy. That's easy.
Unless you want to leave us with anything.
No, I just think that, life is short, and some of us are just thumping away at life, and I've learned, especially again, now that I've reached, again, this middle age thing. And I just realized that time is really precious, and if there's things you want to do, I'd get to doing them and I'd get on it. I just think it's important because you'll have regret if you don't. And I'm not one personally to live with a lot of regret.
No, ditto. Ditto. And I'm glad that you said that because I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah, totally.
Really, all of the things that you said, I think a lot of people will greatly benefit from. So
I
thank
hope
you.
so. I hope so.
Thank you.
Well, it was a pleasure.
Yes. Yes. Same here. Congratulations again on your, I'm going to say, success. Because most people will look at it and also call it that.
No,
Um,
it's kind. Thank you.
yes, yes. And I'm excited to see what is next for you and watch that unfold as you continue
Thank
your
you.
journey.
And same goes for you. I just know that you have your own goals, and you're chipping away at life, and it looks like you're doing well yourself. So I wish you the best.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Again, super excited and grateful to have had Paul here with us today and bring you guys some inspiration, some motivation, and some golden nuggets that hopefully you take and put in your back pocket. Move forward with them. Take that step forward. Feel the fear. Do it anyway.
Do it.
Yes, for sure. So
Or why
until what's that?
or why can't you do it, right?
Yes. Why
Yeah.
can't you? So until next time, this is the stage of greatness. See you all next show. Bye.
Bye bye.